Hello, fifth graders. It's great to be back with you. I miss you. I miss seeing you. I miss reading to you. I miss everything about us not being together. Anyway, I'm so glad that we have technology so that we can continue to communicate in some fashion. Before I read a short story to you, I want to let you know about some new features this week. Number 1, I've included a checklist with your weekly packet assignments to help you keep track, and it lets you have the satisfaction of checking boxes when you finish each worksheet. Number 2, our Zoom class meeting is Tuesday at 1 o'clock. I hope to see you there. And number 3, I will start offering office hours this week on Zoom. So if you have a question on your assignments, you can just pop into the meeting, ask your question, and then pop back out and continue working so that you know what you're doing. Those office hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 11. Look for those links in the weekly email. The story this week in the big book is called The Skunk Ladder, and we're starting a new unit, and it's about adventure. And the unit's question is, who goes seeking adventure and why? The Skunk Ladder is a comical story about two boys who are pretty adventurous. I think you would enjoy it. So if you have access to the reading story, and I know fifth graders, we're having a little trouble getting that going, but we're doing some research to help figure that out. Hopefully we can get that solved soon. The story this week is called How the Desert Made Us Different. And it's about a boy and his family and how they were once timid or shy, and now they're outgoing and adventurous, and how the desert helped them do that. We only have 2 amazing words today. The first word, repeat after me, is prairie, and the second word is desert. It reminds me of a little story that a really good friend once told me about the difference between desert and dessert, the spelling difference between the two, because they're spelled almost exactly alike, except for the S's in the middle. She told me that desert has only one S because you only want to cross the desert once. Dessert, on the other hand, yes, please, I'll have another. You always want 2 helpings of dessert, so it has 2 S's. So that little side note might help you with your spelling someday. I know it helps me with mine, especially with reading too. I didn't know if this was desert or dessert until I thought about my rule in my head. How the desert made us different. My family was not what you would call adventurous. Dad used to say, if I want adventure, I'll turn on the National Geographic channel. Mom? Show her a spider and watch her vanish. As for our sheepdog Max, he never met a cat he wasn't leery of. And me? Well, I used to fit right in with the others. I still fit in, but we're different people now. And Max is a different dog. We've had adventures galore since moving here 6 months ago. Here is a home in the foothills of the Catalina Mountains overlooking Tucson, Arizona. We came here from a little town in Kansas. I like to draw cartoons, and recently I drew the 4 of us entering a long tunnel with the word prairie written at one end and desert at the other. We enter the tunnel dragging our feet and looking timid, and come out the other end walking tall and looking fearless. What transformed us from wimps to daredevils? Well, first there was the diamondback rattlesnake on the doorstep. He showed up the very first night, shaking his rattle to say, "Welcome to the neighborhood," in his own special way. Sure, we knew there'd be poisonous creatures in the desert, but did it have to be right there on our front porch? Mom saw him first. Her scream brought the rest of us to the door. And then came the sinister rattle. That night we all had thoughts of heading straight back to Kansas. But we toughed it out. Through the other rattlesnakes that stopped by, and the deadly Gila monsters, and all the poisonous spiders and scorpions. Not to mention the unearthly yipping and howling of coyotes at night, and javelinas trooping alongside the road. Javelinas resemble large pigs, only with fur all over and an odor that, well, let's just say it's not what you'd call fragrant. Did any of us ever tangle with these fearsome critters? Max and I did. He got chased by a dozen javelinas while I was walking him in the desert. I managed to catch up and get him on leash, and together the two of us stood them off as they prowled around, snorting and clicking their sharp yellow teeth like they were about to devour us both. But Max and I held our ground, and I yelled and tossed rocks near them until they backed off. And all the while, Max snarled and barked. Now I call him Mad Max. Little by little, the four of us took control, building walls and putting up fences to keep the critters out of the yard. We love it here now. Wouldn't trade our home in the desert for any place else. No need to watch the National Geographic Channel for adventure anymore. It's right here every day, all around us. Just not so close anymore. Kind of reminds me of our homes here in the Morton area. I'm, as you know, currently building a chicken coop to keep the critters away from our animals so they don't harm them. And we're in a very beautiful place and lots of wildlife and beautiful things to see around here. So very, very similar instance. Well, that's all I wanted to share. I look forward to seeing you on our weekly class meetings, and please join us for my class or for my office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 11. Well, bye for now, Mr. Conger.